First, I pay my respects to the traditional owners of the lands where I live and work, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, whose sovereignty was never ceded. Many people attending this conference will also be doing so from places that were founded on the genocide and dispossession of First Nations people. I acknowledge the injustice of colonial structures that remain within our research cultures and institutions. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the third annual conference of SORTEE. We are the Society for Open, Reliable and Transparent Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. My name is Rose O'Day. I'm a postdoc, the current president of SORTEE, and one of SORTEE's co-founders. So before getting into the details of the conference, I'm going to give you a bit of background on how SORTEE came to be, what SORTEE is now, and I will encourage you to get involved with the society next year. SORTEE was launched at the end of 2020, and many of you will have attended our first SORTEE conference in July 2021. So the early days of SORTEE turned into this big pandemic passion project, and I think that accidentally ended up being a very appropriate time to begin an open science society. If you think back to those years when our lives were so disrupted in these various ways, many of us were reassessing how we felt and thought about our work. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is this for? What does it mean? Do I want to keep doing things this way? And so I think those COVID years have only served to amplify this real sense of researcher dissatisfaction that has driven a lot of the open science movement and efforts for reform. SORTEE is in some sense underpinned by this desire for research and the experience of being a researcher to be better than it currently is. And I realize that's quite a general and vague thing to say, but the specifics of your hopes and your frustrations, they're going to be different for each person who finds their way to SORTEE. Sometimes people express this growing sense of unease that they found harder to ignore over time, or sometimes people have an event, a disruption that makes them question what it is they were doing or what they were reading. What was that for? What did that mean? And so some of this diversity in members' perspectives is quite beautifully captured in this Q&A blog series that's regularly updated on SORTEE's website. It's well worth checking out. Last year, to celebrate SORTEE's 2-year anniversary, one of our co-founders, Malika Eel, wrote a wonderful summary of the member responses that we'd received so far. So some members have written that they were first introduced to open science ideas through mentors, friends, and colleagues. Other SORTEE members have experienced the frustration of trying to build on research but not being able to access those research materials, or they can't find the data to include in a meta-analysis. And some SORTEE members get first-hand experience of this well-known issue of high rates of false positives in the published literature when they're trying to build on work and then it just does not replicate. And there are SORTEE members who've witnessed cases of scientific misconduct, really serious cases, including research fraud. And there are some SORTEE members that first hear about open science issues from other disciplines where they become quite prominent, such as the issue of publication bias in clinical medicine and what has become known as the replication crisis in psychology. There are also many SORTEE members who just worry in general that the research practices that are incentivized by journals and funders and hirers, that those practices are at odds with what we know would generate knowledge most reliably and efficiently. So that's depicted as researcher strain in this 2021 paper by SORTEE founding members. So indeed, in that blog series, when we asked SORTEE members, if you had the power to change one thing in your field, what would it be? The most common wish was to shift research incentives away from publish or perish. And similarly, this year, the majority of SORTEE members in 2023 say that advocating for policy change is one of the open science issues that they care most about. So we know this from the onboarding survey that's given to all SORTEE members. If you yourself are not already a SORTEE member this year, you can do so by going to www.sortee.org/join. When you become a SORTEE member, we have a suggested membership fee that's based on your career stage. But we do also have a free membership option. No questions asked, you can become a SORTEE member for free. We also have a flexible fee option, a pay what you can option. So you can use that to suggest a lower amount to the one suggested to suit your personal circumstances. Or if you would like to, and if you're in a position where you can make a bigger financial contribution to SORTEE by nominating a higher amount. What we also know from that onboarding survey is that this year in 2023, most SORTEE members are early or mid-career researchers. And the most common way that someone hears about SORTEE before they become a member is through a friend or colleague. Word of mouth, it really works. So please do tell the open science enthusiasts or even just the open science curious. Tell those people in your life about SORTEE and encourage them to become a member and get involved. To help you spread the word, you can find SORTEE's logos and this QR code on our public OSF site. You can add these into your posters or your slides that you use for presentations. And to promote SORTEE, there's also our YouTube channel. It has recorded talks that I think are just really great resources. They're so rich in ideas. The plenaries from last year, especially the 2022 conference plenaries, they're really easy to refer back to because the text transcripts are all available online in the original English, as well as non-English translations in French, Hindi, Portuguese, and Spanish. Those transcripts are great. I would really love for them to be more widely used, and the original English transcripts too. Please check them out. And on the topic of translations, you might not know that SORTEE's preprint server, EcoEvo Archive, is accepting submissions in English as well as Spanish and Portuguese. And the EcoEvo Archive Committee is currently seeking French-speaking editors to approve those submissions as well. So we're working on expanding the language accessibility of SORTEE's preprint server. You can learn more about EcoEvo Archive at this conference in the second hackathon in the program starting soon. It starts at 9:30 UTC. Now, while you're thinking of people in your life to spruik SORTEE to, please think extra hard about people who are more senior in their career, people in positions of power. We have relatively few people from that cohort contributing to SORTEE at the moment, and I think that having more of those people donating their service time or money, or their time and money to SORTEE, that would really help with this goal that so many SORTEE members share of advocating for policy change. But even more than advocacy, the issue that most SORTEE members say is important to them is open data and open code. This follows a relatively long history of data sharing in our research fields compared to other disciplines. What happened in 2010 is that a bunch of society journals made this top-down intervention. They declared that from the following year, in 2011, if your paper got accepted, you had to archive the underlying data and make it public. And it really worked. We saw rates of data sharing increase rapidly. It's been slower, but we're now seeing more journals also require the code underlying the results in papers to be archived too. And you might have noticed that some journals are now adding more accountability into the process to increase the quality of these shared materials. So data editors are being asked to check that authors are adhering to guidelines around shared data, metadata, and code before papers are published, and this is making them much higher quality and more user-friendly. So as these sharing practices become both more common and more required, and we're increasing our standards around them, I think the SORTEE community is just the perfect place to come and learn from each other and improve our skills in these areas. And this emphasis on data and code has been reflected in the topics of the monthly SORTEE workshop and webinar series. So this is organised by the fabulous Education and Outreach Committee. You can find details of those past and upcoming events by going to the other_events page on SORTEE's website. On that page, you will find links to forms where you can also request a webinar and workshop if there's a particular topic that interests you. And you can also propose giving one of these events yourself. And we do have an honoraria for all of our workshop and webinar presenters. So as well as advocacy and open data and open code, a lot of SORTEE members just care about these big open science topics, things like replication, peer review reform, and improving inference through tools like pre-registration and registered reports. Registered reports are this publication format designed to combat selective reporting and publication bias. In a registered report, peer review and the decision for acceptance happens before a study is conducted, and so before the results are known. At the first SORTEE conference in 2021, there was a hackathon where conference participants emailed editors in ecology and evolution, encouraging them to offer this publication format. And then just earlier this month, the Advocacy Committee organised a really wonderful Zoom event for journal editors to learn more about registered reports and hear from journals that were already offering them. I've heard really positive things about how that event was received. So if you would like to continue this initiative, or if you'd like to dive into another open science topic that's near and dear to your heart, please do consider joining SORTEE's Advocacy Committee next year. This brings me to the fact that SORTEE is an entirely volunteer-run organisation, and nominations are currently open for volunteers to run the society in 2024. You have until October 25 to submit your nomination to volunteer for this society next year, and please also encourage others to apply. So you can read more about the types of roles we're seeking or suggest your own role by going to this nomination form. The link is tinyurl.com/volunteer SORTEE 2024. There are 3 types of positions we're seeking volunteers for: board members, committee chairs, and regular committee members. So I'll give you a bit of background on how SORTEE is structured. First of all, we have this elected board of 9 people. And on that board, we keep 2 seats reserved for students, 2 seats reserved for early or mid-career people, and then there are 2 seats reserved for people who are senior in their career. And then there are 3 seats that any SORTEE member can join. The board then chooses the executive officers, and the general role of the board is to decide on the society's policies and priorities and oversee how everything is running. People are elected to the board for 3-year terms, and the seats are staggered so that each year 3 people come off and 3 people are elected on. This year's election is for an early or mid-career person, a senior person, and then there is an open seat that all SORTEE members are eligible for. And as an incentive to enter the election, we know it can be a bit scary to put your hand up. Everyone on the ballot is offered a free SORTEE t-shirt. So the board is elected according to SORTEE's bylaws, but this society really does not function without these other committees that members volunteer to run and to join. Like, these are really the powerhouse behind SORTEE. Each committee is led by a chair, and those committees are producing most of this public-facing content of SORTEE, including this virtual conference. So to see all of the wonderful people who help SORTEE by serving on these committees, you can go to the people page on SORTEE's website. That's sortee.org/people. And also, this conference is the perfect time to meet committee members, talk to them about what it's like, find out more, and work out whether you might like to be involved in SORTEE next year. If this is something you're interested in, if you have any questions or opinions about SORTEE and the future of our society, please do come along to one of the 2 unconference sessions that members of the board are hosting at this conference. They're the U5 sessions in the conference program called What is SORTEE and What Could It Become? So just choose whichever session works best for your time zone. And you can find that out by going to the conference program Shiny app, sortee2023.shinyapps.io/program-app. There you can enter in where you are in the world, and it'll show you the conference program in your local time zone. So we're going to use these unconferences to answer any questions you might have and hear what you would like the society to prioritize in 2024. But I want to emphasize, we will emphasize it in those sessions, and I want to emphasize it now, that the only thing you need to help SORTEE is time and motivation. There really is no experience required. And I'm emphasizing this because I sometimes talk to people, and especially students, who feel that they don't know enough about open science, or for whatever reason, they just aren't qualified to contribute to SORTEE. And I just assure you that that is absolutely not the case. We are all learning by doing, and we really do help each other out. Personally, I've found volunteering for SORTEE really rewarding. The more I put in, the more I've got out of it. SORTEE, for me, has been this great source of meaning and camaraderie and new friendships with people from all over the world who research very different things, but we share a similar worldview. We have shared aspirations for the future of science. And one of the great joys of traveling again after COVID restrictions lifted has been meeting up with SORTEE volunteers in person after we just knew each other from many, many Zoom meetings. And so I do encourage you to connect with SORTEE members in person if you're able to do so at other conferences that are happening in person, or you can invite each other to departmental seminars and workshops, that sort of thing. We have kept this SORTEE conference virtual for a bunch of reasons, but one of the main ones is that we think it's incredibly valuable for everyone to be able to attend regardless of where they are in the world. We don't want any barriers to entry. And indeed, the registrants for this conference so far have come from over 33 different countries. But if you go to sortee.org/meet-ups, sortee.org/meet-ups, you will find a form to organize a SORTEE get-together at a conference you're attending. And you can also represent SORTEE at conferences with a poster. We'll send you a poster. You can have a booth. This is really a great way to have those in-person connections, the stuff that you don't get from virtual conferences. So once again, the link to volunteer for SORTEE is tinyurl.com/volunteer SORTEE 2024. So try to fill this out soon, because then you can reach out if you have any questions, if there's anything you're unsure about. Now, there are no better examples of SORTEE volunteers than our conference committee. They have been working really hard to make this conference happen and be free for all members. So I want to give a huge thank you to the exceptional 2023 conference committee, led by the chair, Mathieu Paquet, who's worked wonderfully alongside Ed Ifemi-Cook, Ineta Kachagite, Maria Pogar, Alina Takola, Juliet Tariel Adam, and Rachel Tuba. Thank you all. And thank you as well to the additional conference facilitators who have generously volunteered their time as well to help this conference run smoothly across every time zone. We've also been helped financially by SORTEE's 2023 sponsors, the American Society for Naturalists, Canadian Science Publishing, Figshare, the Living Data Project, and Peer Community In. Their support has been vital for sustaining and growing SORTEE. So a big thanks to them, and also thanks to SORTEE's fundraising committee. Okay, now to the main event. All the information you need about the 2023 SORTEE conference is contained in your conference information pack. You can find the link to that document in your email. You will have received an email from the conference organizers, but reach out to us if you can't find it. So please familiarize yourself with SORTEE's Code of Conduct. You will find that linked in the information pack, and it's available on our website. We're committed to SORTEE being an inclusive and welcoming space for all participants. If you experience or witness an interaction that troubles you in any way, you can report it anonymously through a form linked on SORTEE's website. And you're also welcome to contact anyone from the board or the conference organizers with any concerns you might have via email or direct message on Slack. Also, you can contact them with any questions. But before you ask a question, do first read your conference information pack, because it's got so much information in there, including details on all the sessions, the link to the Shiny app to convert the program into your local time zone, and instructions for joining and using the Slack space for updates throughout the conference. So that Slack space is the one with the black circular SORTEE logo, and it's going to be monitored by volunteers throughout the conference. So that's the best place to go if you have any problems. Also, throughout the year, this Slack space stays open. It's a resource for SORTEE members to talk to each other, to ask for help or advice, or to advertise things like events and papers and job openings. There's various channels to do that. So keep this Slack space open and use it to talk to each other. So this year's conference program is entirely interactive. There are no parallel sessions. You don't have to choose. Until the conference finishes in a bit over 24 hours, there will just be one event running whenever you tune in. We have 5 workshops, 5 hackathons, and there are 8 informal unconference discussions to look forward to. For those of you still on social media, we'll be using the hashtag SORTEE2023. We're at SortEcoEvo on Twitter or X, and you can also find us on Mastodon, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. It's also not too late for your friends and colleagues to register for the conference. They can quickly get the links to join the sessions by registering for free, which they can do by first becoming a SORTEE member, which they can also do for free. So we would prefer that you direct them that way rather than sending them a sneaky link. Thank you very much. And that brings me to the end of this introduction and the beginning of this 3rd annual SORTEE conference. I really look forward to meeting and catching up with many of you when our time zones overlap, and I'm just super excited about everything that we have planned over the next 24 hours. So thank you very much to all the presenters for allowing this conference to be possible. We have our first session starting at 7:30 UTC with a discussion about addressing research waste in ecology. Welcome, everybody. Enjoy the conference.